and welcome to another episode of the Strong Family Project podcast. I'm Joe, joined by Mel, and today we are talking about some critical strategies if you're feeling busy and overwhelmed. I can guarantee you there'll be at least one on our list that you haven't heard of before.
Welcome back to the Strong Family Project podcast, where we guide you on the path to raising confident, independent, and resilient children in a strong family environment.
This is a regular full-length episode, so at the beginning of each episode, we throw in a little bit of something extra for you. Mel, would you like me to go first, or do you have a segment that you'd like to lean into?
You may go first.
What's the favorite food you ate this week?
You know what? A friend of mine suggested that I put Parmesan cheese and red pepper flakes in our sourdough naans, and I tried it on just one, and it was really good.
I can like that.
I'll make you one. I meant to save you a piece, but I ate the whole thing.
Sounds great. I wish I could have tried something like that. But alas, there were none. Okay. For me, it actually goes off that too. We're very regimented with our meal planning and meal prep. And one of mine to get into the list is meal planning is a huge time saver. So Mel's been making some essential items that we can then mix into meals each week. One of them is what we call a sourdough naan. It's basically like a little sourdough, almost biscuit size, and you can toast them.
It's like
put
a
eggs
flatbread
on them. You make flatbread pizzas on them. There's a lot you can do with them. Apparently, Mel's got a top secret recipe, which you did not share with me, of another option for them. But we have that made and in Tupperwares in the fridge that can be taken out and warmed up. Mel, what's some of the other things that you batch make so that we're saving a lot of time in the kitchen?
Kombucha is huge, so we make that all the time. So even if we're just thirsty or like in between meals, we don't have time to eat something, we can drink that. I also always have plain oatmeal ready, so we can just stir in protein or whatever other ingredients, nuts, raisins,
I find that one
whatever.
to be a huge time saver. It's just a Tupperware. You do whole rolled oats?
Steel cut oats, whatever, but I make a huge amount, and then we just save it for the week. And then even if there's like an evening when a kid doesn't like whatever I'm cooking for dinner, that's the backup option.
Yeah, they can do oatmeal. Mel makes homemade nut butters, so we can go oats with a nut butter. We can go oats with a scoop of chocolate protein. We do oats and a berry, oats, chia seed, and something else. So there's a lot of different varieties, but she just makes the batch level. She doesn't make all of those different varieties. You have the base. You can mix it together in under 3 minutes easily, and then you have a meal out of it.
And then I also make granola. So usually if I'm making like sourdough pretzels, since the oven's already on, I also make granola, which is very easy and fast. And that'll be something you can either eat by itself or sprinkle on the oatmeal, because I like crunch in my food.
Some people find this gross, but I like to scramble a bunch of eggs and have them. I know people are like, oh, you can have hard-boiled eggs cold, but they think scrambled egg cold. People and eggs are so weird. I'm going to have to get this off my chest. I got to go into a 2-minute egg rant. I think they're a huge time saver, and they're extremely healthy for you. But people and their egg perception is just so odd to me. It's like people go and say, oh, you're going to have 3 eggs? That's a lot. Well, you have a bagel smothered in cream cheese that's 3 times the calories and everything bad, or a huge bowl of cereal that is double the calories of these 3 eggs. But somehow in their head, they think that 3 eggs is a lot. I don't know if it was the cholesterol marketing of the late 80s, early 90s, where the cereal industry convinced people that was the best, most healthy meal. Now we know that is not true, and that was marketing and studies paid for by, I believe it was Kellogg's company, that was saying that these cereals were heart healthy and all that garbage. Not true, and eggs are bad. You got to buy our cereal. And there's this whole generation of people that believe it because the marketing was so pervasive. And so they think eating 2 or 3 eggs is terrible for them. Now, maybe if you have heart issues existing or cholesterol issues existing. But anyways, that's my egg rant. I'm always on a egg platform advocating for egg usage in people's lives.
To give eggs a little bit more of a positive spin, too, is we sometimes make eggs and we put it on like a hamburger. Or just try to put it in with other things. Actually, here's a really cool idea that my sister told me about. So when she's cooking her oatmeal, when it's still hot, she puts an egg in it and mixes it in, and it makes it like a custard. So you don't taste the egg. It's just one egg, but it adds this like puddingy, custardy texture to the oatmeal. It's really good.
I know you're a texture eater, and I don't get
I
that.
am a texture. Sorry, not
Sounds
sorry.
good.
Yeah.
It's just different. Egg cups are a great time-saving meal where you mix up eggs and some veggies. You put them in a like cupcake tin or whatever you use, the silicone trays. And now you have the egg bites you can put in Ziploc bag, take with you. They're much more portable that way. So I'm going to get off my egg platform. However, meal planning and prep with some basic items for the week that your family can then take and adapt to each meal is huge time saver.
Yes, that's really a huge thing for us recently as well, because we now have kids in sports and we're not eating dinner like we used to, like at the same time that we used to. So having that stuff ready ahead of time is really important.
I'll give you one more on the meal prep tips, is that we usually take a gallon of milk and turn it into yogurt.
Oh, yeah.
We're a little bit behind on it, but it's just a crock pot thing. You put it in, you heat it up, cool it down, you mix in a half cup or so of your previous yogurt, and then you let it sit overnight and it turns into yogurt. Same kind of concept as the oatmeal. Then the kids could take it and they could flavor it with different things. They can make their own meal because the base is there and done. And we much prefer that than saying our time saver is go eat a prepackaged bar. So we're looking for long-term health, but we're also saving time by prepping a lot of these items ourselves and not leaning on the grab and go type of snack industry, which leaves you more hungry anyways, which leaves you to making full meals later. It just costs you more and makes you less healthy.
And it's a great after-school snack, too. I've been making pumpkin muffins with healthier ingredients, zucchini muffins with healthier ingredients. And what I mean by that is flax seed instead of flour, or coconut sugar instead of white sugar. And then the kids have something quick to eat right after school. Our kindergartner who comes home ravenous, and the other two are still at sports for 2 hours. So it's just something that's there, and I don't have to point to the pantry where all the packaged food is, because we do use that for lunches.
One more time saver for the kids and snacks and meal planning is that we did buy a dehydrator. And just last week our son Logan got it back out, but there are, basically you can get canned fruit. It's not as good as fresh fruit, but you can get cans is huge time saver, like the pineapple slices, and you dehydrate it, and it's like a pineapple gummy, but it's just the pineapple slice that he dehydrates and puts a bunch of Ziploc bag. Then he can have later apples with cinnamon's another great one. He's done pear slices, he's done little orange slices, he dehydrates them, and then he has a bag that he created as a snack option.
And he specifically told me, Mom, I want to do this by myself.
So it does create some independence.
Yeah, it does.
And I am a huge fan of eliminating as much pre-packaged and doing this time batching and meal batching yourselves.
The one that kind of sets the tone for me is you have to do some, if you recognize that busyness is an issue in your family, and I feel like it is for so many, it's important to find your baseline, to maybe track where you're losing time, how you're spending your time. So doing a bit of self-reflection, self-evaluation on how you spend your time as an individual, how your family spends their time. And this really does also include like tech time, because you can't say you're busy if you're spending 2 hours a day on your phone. I just think it's important to be honest with yourself with how you're using your time before you start to implement strategies.
There's a concept in business that Mel's talking about called time auditing. If you're paying for someone's labor hours, you want to make sure that they're productive hours and that they are getting the most use out of their hours. They're not doing a lot of busy work, and essentially they're busy but not efficient, and that could be frustrating for the employee as well. All you do is you time track. How much time do you spend doing this? Each item per week, and you write down a list, and then you see where you're losing time, and then you can fix it. So that's a great point, Mel. As many tactics as we can throw at you, you have to apply it to your individual situation and where you're losing time. So another one of mine is screen time. You have to monitor your screen time. That's where a lot of time just vanishes in our day. That includes cell phone usage. Put a little time tracking app just so you can get a baseline to see where you're at on that. It's very easy to say, I don't have any time for, and then fill in a blank. I don't have time to go for a walk. Like we walk almost every day. We hear, you don't have any time for that. But they do have 2 to 3 hours of Netflix usage a day. And so there is time for that. It's just not being used in the right places. Which leads me to my next one after the screen time. I'll do 2 here because I have quite a list I want to share with you today, is prioritize your time to spend more time on what you deem as important. That'll make the time feel like it's more valuable. If you feel so busy and inefficient, you'll feel burnt out very quick. But prioritize your time, prioritize your tasks in a day I like to focus on about 5 primary tasks in a day, and that's about what I can get done at a high level. And then I can fill in the blanks with the smaller items.
That was actually my next one, focus on priorities. And I had a little bit of a different angle where it's more of a mindset shift. So we're here at the Strong Family Project. The core values is the basis of everything that we do. So if you're saying, what are my priorities? I think it's important to have those core values created, and that helps to guide what your priorities should be. So for example, for us, being adventurous and wanting to be together. So on the weekends, we're going to focus on things that involve us being together and doing something maybe outside of our comfort zones. So it just helps to shape how we're going to spend our time, knowing what the priorities are, what is important to us, instead of just letting things, just hoping for the best or everybody having something different on their mind. And that's also where family meetings become really important, another piece of the Strong Family Path, because we can come together and you could even make part of your family meeting, what are we doing this week? What are we going to prioritize? What's something we could do to spend time together? So those are things that are already built into our schedule that help us focus on priorities.
I'm going to shift gears and go very tactical, which is batch your errands. So if you're going out to town, here it takes about 30 minutes to drive into the city. And if we're doing, oh, I forgot this, oh, I forgot that. The reality is just deal without it until it's on your schedule to go again. You can survive a day or two. And I know this is tough in our household. You can survive a day or two without bananas. It's not the end of the world. You can survive a day or two, and that'll force you to prioritize things a little bit better. And perhaps if you're driving by the store and you're going out to something you have to go out to anyways, then you batch that errand on top of it. But try to batch your errands together as best as possible. We were interviewing someone on the podcast. I believe her name was Amy. She was very engaging guest from Healthy Kids Brains. She said her mom went to town like twice a year. Mm-hmm. And she wasn't old. She was late 30s, I believe. And so she would batch all her errands into 2 trips a year to town, not 2 a day, not 2 a week, not 2 a month, but 2 a year. So it is practical to cut down on your trip time. That time you spend in the car is substantial. Now that I've been driving to a lot of the kids' sports, which we did prioritize as really important, that's an extra 15 minutes down, 15 minutes back. So I later on top of it, I listen to an audiobook down and back so I can get some personal development in that time period as well. However, batch your errands and be a little bit more strategic with the time you're spending in your vehicle.
That is something that I have to work on because it's a joke pretty much in our family where I run out of bananas.
Out of bananas every day.
The kids need them for like their morning shake, and then after school they have a snack with a banana, whatever. And that's something that I noticed that if I could either just get more at each time that I go to the store so that I'm saving myself that time. And what occurred to me when you were talking about car time, I think this is a skill we have to teach our kids as well, is if we say, hey, we have to be somewhere at 8:30, like we have to leave the house to get to school at 7:30, and I say we have to leave at 7:20. So 7:18, they're still on their tablets, they're whatever. I'm like, you guys, it takes time to go get your socks, to put them on, to put your shoes on and lace them, to put your lunchbox in your backpack. So I think sometimes we forget that there's a lot of things that need to happen before we're even out the door, that oftentimes it's, oh, that's just either something mom will handle or something that just doesn't take time, but it certainly does. For example, like driving to the store. It's going to be half an hour. Like you sometimes will say to me, what took you so long? And I'm like, it takes 40 minutes to get to Costco. I have to go through the store, through the checkout line, 40 minutes home. That is a lot of time. So I do like to play podcasts as well when I'm driving. My next strategy is to identify the non-negotiables. So we talked earlier about the time auditing. You figure out how you're spending your time. What are the things that have to happen? So for us right now, obviously the kids are in school. After school, there's sports and games, and every week I have to sit down on Sunday and figure out what's the schedule for the week for the evenings. So those are things that are not negotiable. We have to do these things. Maybe it's a doctor's appointment or something like that. And then you see it on your calendar and you see where the gaps of time are that you can maybe spend doing something that you want to do or something that's not as negotiable, or that is negotiable, But I think it's important to identify what can't change, like what needs to happen, and block that out on the calendar.
Agreed.
Okay.
No, I have a perfect day formula. If every day I laugh I lead and I lift, whether it's lift my heart rate up or lift someone's spirits up. That's a complete day to me. So I have a definition of what success looks like, and I don't feel frustrated if I don't get everything else done. You have to prioritize your tasks.
So in light of that, my next one is be comfortable with saying no.
That's a good one. Love saying no.
I think a lot of people either feel guilty or feel like they have to do certain things. And I think it's important, first of all, if you know what your priorities are, if you have your core values set, it becomes easier to say no because you have a language of what to filter that through. You ask yourself, is this adventurous? Is this genuine to our family? Is this whatever your values are? And if the answers are no to a lot of those, you probably should say no. So you can't just say yes because you feel guilty or because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do. Even today, I dropped my son off at a birthday party, and the mom asked me, "Are you staying?" It hadn't even occurred to me that I would have taken the 3 hours to stay at that party. But then on the way home, I felt a little bad. I was like, maybe I should have stayed. Maybe she needs help. But it's okay that I said no and then came home and did something productive here. But I think it's important to ask yourself, we're always talking about being more intentional. Why are you saying yes to this? Is this something that you have to do? Is it a non-negotiable, or is it something that you can say no to be able to do something else that's more important?
Makes sense, Mel. I'll give another example. My little brain's a little slow. I've been a little under the weather this week. If you're on YouTube, I'm a little bit of a glisten right now. I'm sweating a little. We're empowered through this episode because we have not missed an episode for you since we started. So we're going to keep on trucking, and along with that, I've been blessed to be on a significant number of podcasts lately, and I've had to start saying no to both of us being on them because I can't commit that hour or two. Some of them get rescheduled and bounced around, and Mel's taken a lot of that role on and being able to guest and share the Strong Family message and Strong Family path with other people who have been gracious enough to have us on their podcasts, because I've got to dedicate that hour to other work or other editing to make sure the stuff gets out on time and we stay on track. And so maybe it's not no, but it could also be maybe there's just a better way for us to do this thing. And
in line with that, we have to communicate. So we have to make sure, if you're in a household with several people, you have to make sure you're communicating. And this is a great space for the family meeting. Sometimes Joe and I have to speak obviously on our own because we have work things that the kids don't need to be a part of that conversation. But let's say our kids have something they want to do or spend time with one of their friends or do something like that. We have to make sure that we're hearing everybody out and communicating and not having it be like, oh, wait, I totally forgot you had this event going on, or I forgot you wanted to go see this person. So make sure you're having effective communication within your family, which is very oftentimes great to practice at the family meeting.
I'll throw an easy one in there. Eat at home. I did meal planning already. As much as possible, eat at home. Going out and traveling to a place, sitting down, it could take 2 or 3 hours worth of actual clock time, not just the time you're sitting at a restaurant, to go out and eat somewhere. That's a significant amount of time. You could work out together as a family, make a meal at home, sit down and eat it, and do a 20-minute walk together. In the same time, it would take you to drive out to a restaurant and sit down, eat, and drive home. Eating at home is a huge time saver for us. We redefined our date night and time together as we usually go for a walk or a hike somewhere close that's by us so that we're spending more time together than this time traveling to go somewhere.
Yeah, eat at home is good. And I think you also end up eating healthier most likely, so you just feel better. I know we haven't eaten out very much, but if we were to go today, I feel like I'd come home and I would just be, I call it melly full. Like I'm just so stuffed, then I can't even do anything. So then time's going to have to be spent recovering from that. Anyway, my last one I had on my list was to be flexible.
I have 7 more.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'll comment on all yours.
No, this is good because I'm breaking into a hard sweat right now. I get disgruntled when I'm quote unquote allegedly sick. I'm going to say sick. I get so insulted that my body would allow a virus in to bother me. I get disappointed in my body.
Tell yourself it's allergies.
Yeah, just a little bit of sun. Go ahead.
Okay. Be flexible. Now, even if you have all your priorities straight, even if you have all your non-negotiables figured out, there still has to be an element of flexibility, because especially with kids, things are going to come up. And like today, for example, I was driving one kid to a birthday party, and then my other kid's friend called while I was in the car, and he's, hey, can I come hang out? And I was like, I'll just swing by and pick you up on the way home. And I know that's going to enrich my middle son's day to have a friend over. So just being flexible, not being so tied to the schedule, especially if that is time that's the negotiable pieces of the day. Or we're in sports season now. This is brand new territory for us. It's the first time that 2 of our kids have been in sports at the same time. And Joe has been so great to go pick them up from practice. We try to head down whenever there's games all together. And this is also with a kindergartner who just started kindergarten a couple weeks ago. So we're flexible with how we plan our dinners. For a couple of days, we were totally off. Like, we were so used to eating earlier. It was a struggle to figure that out. But with some communication, with some flexibility, we have gotten to a better groove after a couple of days. But just recognizing that flexibility can be very difficult, but it certainly helps, especially when things pop up, which they certainly will, like a kid being sick or having to go to the walk-in, or like whatever the case may be.
Allegedly sick.
Allegedly. Okay. Let's say the kid throws up. That's
allegedly.
All right. If they have to stay home, it changes the schedule is what I'm trying to say.
Time for lightning round.
Okay.
I'm going to get through my list. So here we go. This is about number 9 overall, time blocking. Set periods of times for you to do something. Work on it aggressively during that time, and then you can move to another task. There's a common method where you work hard for 20 minutes, and then you take a 5 to 10 minute break, depending on how you're feeling. Work for 20, take 5 to 10. And so you can focus during that time, whether it's household work, whether it's something like doing the bills or doing something around the house, whether it's clearing your inbox off, that the work will expand to use the full time that you allow, and it allow the least amount of time as is practical. So something that you say, oh, this will take me an hour. Okay, it will take you an hour. If you say, I'm going to try to do it in 30 minutes, it'll probably take you 30 minutes on most tasks. So block your time ahead of time and put a little timer on. Next one.
Oh, I'm going to ruin your lightning round.
I didn't even get through one.
Because I learned this from our friend Vince. I remember him speaking on it. And the one thing that really that comes to mind for me now reflecting on it is he said during that 30 minutes or whatever the allotted time is, you cannot have your phone on. You cannot have those distractions, because as soon as your phone dings, that's it. Like, your mind is veered off to the side. So I wanted to just make that caveat that if you do that, because I think that's such a great strategy, don't have your phone on, or those distractions will throw you off.
And so some people are probably saying, must be nice to be able to time block. I got this and that and this and that and this and this and that. Here's a massive thing that not enough people do. Be honest. When we start using the language, oh, I'm so busy, I can't. I wish I could, but I'm busy. We start to believe it ourselves. Sometimes it starts as an excuse. We don't want to do that thing. We try to save someone's feelings by not telling them no. So we just say, oh, I'm busy. And we keep repeating it over and over again, and it gets ingrained in what we actually believe at the end of the day. We can't tell whether it's the truth or it's our just cloud of excuses that then takes over how we actually behave, act, and think. And so be honest. If you don't want to do something, in the majority of situations, just say, hey, I don't want to go to that. People will find it refreshing if you do so in a caring way. Don't say it like a jerk, but use honest language, especially when you're trying to minimize or maximize your time in the day. And people will start to respect you as a serious person who does value time. And then if you start using that language, you hear yourself use those words, and you do actually start valuing time. So it's a psychological trick. Don't allow yourself to lie about time, because I know, and most people know, it's BS. Oh, I would really work out, but I don't have the time. There's people who work tremendous shifts. There's very few people that actually do not have the time. What they have is they don't have the priority of doing that activity. And that's okay. You can say, hey, I'm not prioritizing exercise right now. Hey, I'm not prioritizing going to do X, Y, or Z. Be honest about it, though. Don't lie, because real people can see right through it.
That's why my first thing was about the self-reflection. You have to be honest with how you're using your time.
You said it in a nicer way.
If you're sitting in your car for an hour and a half while your kid's practicing, you could be walking the track. You could be exercising in some way. So I just think you said be honest with yourself.
Next, lightning round, still rolling on. Do a calendar review at your
Lightning
weekly meeting so that everyone's on the same page. Do a weekly calendar with the main events. Those are the priorities that have to happen, whether it's the school day, extracurricular games, activities, running kids around. Do a review at weekly meetings. Going right into the next one before Mel jumps in. Delegate responsibilities to your family, including your children. The more you elevate your kids' skills in terms of being able to help, we'd have them help with morning tasks. They do the garbage. They participate in this, keeping this household running, that it gives you back a tremendous amount of time, and it gives them a tremendous amount of self-confidence that they can contribute to a high-functioning organization. Make sure you're communicating it the right way, and you are grateful for their help. And what I mean by, oh, well, you're under my roof, you do these chores. That's crap communication. They're going to do the chores anyways. You might as well try to build them up while they do it. Hey, I really appreciate it. Now I can prepare your lunch for you quicker and get this family on track, and I can do the meal prep for the week because you're chipping in. That's just different communication with the same activity outcome, but a very different relationship outcome. So delegate responsibilities and elevate intentionally so that they have the skills to contribute to the household. If you do nothing else on any of these lists, do that one.
And it's a great feeling to be...
Caught me catching my breath.
Yep. It's a great feeling to be able to rely on your kids. Garbage day comes, and I could just say to myself, hey, I'll do it when I come home from dropping them off. But they help me with it, and it feels great that I have able-bodied people to help me.
Turn essentials into habits and routines. Here's what I mean. I think it's essential to start the day, get a little bit of exercise in. I try to get a little sunlight each day. And so it's my habit. I get up, turn the coffee pot on, go for a walk down to the corner and back. It's about 10 minutes. The coffee is done. Then I can sip it. That's a habit for me to get that extra health benefit of getting out and seeing some sunlight as it starts to come up to give me more energy throughout the day. Exercise is a habit for us. So Mel drops the kids off for school. She comes back. The very first thing we do is exercise so that the day doesn't get away from us. We make it a habit and routine as part of our morning where willpower is high. We have more time control. The day isn't off the rails yet. And we make sure to get that done. Things like practicing gratitude is essential daily task for us. So we stack that on top of our dinner. A great book for extra learning on this would be Atomic Habits, where it says find things that you're already doing and stack the new habits on top of it. We are already sitting down for dinner. We want to practice gratitude. Let's do it at dinner so we're not creating a separate meeting for it. I had a friend of mine, Rachel, tell me that Lavelle, her fiance, whenever he brushes his teeth, he does his calf raises. That's like the habit he stacked on top of it. Another friend, I think it was Carly, or no, is this Sarah who does the lacrosse ball while she brushes her teeth on her feet for self-facial release to massage her feet? There's a little cross ball in their bathroom that when they brush their teeth, they use it to massage the bottom of their feet so they don't have, so they relaxes them, but also they both are athletes and runners, so they do that and stack it on top.
I did that for a little while. I forgot about it. I think there's a lacrosse ball in your little drawer.
I got a great episode of the Strong Family Project podcast that you can listen to now and add that back in.
Thanks.
I'll let you know when it's released.
Okay.
Next, set realistic goals. The biggest frustration you'll have is if you set a goal in a time period that is so far outside reality that it just can't be done, and you get so frustrated. And now that frustration actually makes it significantly longer because now you've added frustration into the process. Instead, look up what SMART goals are. If you have a goal, to set it with using the SMART technique, and that won't add in the worry and frustration and all that extra time associated with feeling disappointment, roller coaster goals, and all that. So just set SMART goals and be realistic. Along those same lines, I didn't take a breath this time, is be decisive. Sometimes when we're faced with a decision, we think there's going to be a right answer or a wrong answer. The truth is there's usually different versions of right. Just choose one and go. Like we can do this good thing. This thing is slightly better or slightly worse. We're not sure. This other thing that's good or this other thing that's good. I don't know. Choose one. The only mistake you can make is not choosing any because you feel overwhelmed. Just choose something and do it. Practice being decisive in your life and taking that control. I heard you breathe. Go ahead.
I'm a notorious list maker. And I notice sometimes I spend more time on making the list than I do on actually getting the tasks on the list done. And I feel like there's been a couple of times that I've come to you and you were like, just pick one and just do it. Don't sit here and say, I could start with this because it's probably more important, or I could do this. And then a half an hour goes by and I have a beautifully typed up list, categorized, whatever. but I haven't really accomplished anything. So that's like a great reminder to knock something off the list, even if you don't have to give it so much thought as to whether it's the most important. Just get something done, and then as you make progress, you'll get to the next thing.
I'm going to hit these last two very quick. So we just passed the 30-minute mark on our full-length podcast here. The next one is use appropriate self-care to recharge your energy so that when you do other tasks, you're doing them with a better level of performance. And by that, I do things like the exercise I talked about, do things like getting outside, do things like, hey, if you need, get a massage, listen to podcasts while you drive, listen to some peaceful music, meditate, practice deep breathing, go to yoga. All these things that produce a long-term positive in your life are good examples of self-care that when you come back to doing these other tasks, meal planning and batching your errands and going over weekly calendars and limiting screen time and prioritizing tasks and elevating the other people in your house by delegating responsibilities, you have more energy to contribute to that and do it better. So self-care is not selfish. And most of those like new agey type sayings I'm not about, but that one I am. I agree with that one. It's not selfish for you to hit the recharge button. I'll give you an analogy. I was fortunate enough, I was actually wearing this t-shirt that I'm sweating through right now and running a 100-mile race. And we had 30, I don't remember what it was, 32 or 33 hours to complete 100 miles through the Front Range Mountains in Colorado, up and down these mountains. And by the end, the last 20 miles was very slow and methodical. If I sat down and recharged, I could run those miles much faster. I just didn't have the time to do it. There was people, the better athletes would run. They would get to an aid station 10 miles in and they would take like a 20-minute nap. And they would get up, re-energized, and they'd run again. And they beat me by a ton. Well, I'm just slogging through, and my energy's draining. And each mile gets longer and longer and more painful and slower. And if you take some time to recharge yourself, then you'll be able to perform at a much higher level on the other tasks.
I like that you mentioned the taking a quick little walk. That helps me a ton. And actually, I ordered something, I don't know what it was, but in the package, there was a postcard.
But I don't have time for a walk. I've got an episode of the Strong Family Project podcast that you should listen to.
Get up
Go ahead.
10 minutes early.
Go ahead.
The postcard just simply had a little girl chasing a dog outside, and it simply said, "Walking solves everything." So I feel like there's so much power in just walking. Like I've done the morning walk with you a couple times, just down to the end of the street and back. And literally it's like 15 minutes till we have to leave to catch the bus. And I just take those extra, even if it's 5 minutes, because it energizes me, just getting some fresh air, hanging out with you for a couple minutes. Walking really does just do a ton. Even like at offices, don't they say to get out of your chair and walk around for a couple minutes to recharge a little bit?
Yes.
It's good. It's underrated. It's really great.
I agree. And I appreciate your patience on this episode, Mel. I want to get to the last one because I'm not feeling so hot. Actually, I'm feeling super hot. I'm feeling way too hot. This is the one that I want to take just maybe 2 minutes to explain because it's one that I haven't heard anybody else say and I've never actually shared with you.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I was thinking about it when I was writing my list, and over the last couple of weekends, I've been doing some more things with our youngest son, Everett, which we went out with Rodolfo's family, and he has a young son as well. Everett's 5. They want to climb the Manitou Incline, and Everett's got a great attitude about it, and he wanted to bring his son, so they would do it together. They had a great attitude. They climb up, then we have a 3-mile switch back down. It takes a while. You get back, and then you go. Here's the point. Be more accepting of the time things take. I wrote down time accepting. I knew that going down there would take 4 or 5 hours. Okay. I got to take a deep breath. Whether I rush it or I get all frustrated and frantic and try to jam something through, it's going to take 4 or 5 hours. There is no other way about it. I might as well slow myself down and enjoy the moments that are within that time than try to speed it up to save 5 or 10 minutes. It's going to take hours regardless. Sometimes you just need to take a breath with your family and accept that something is worth the time you're investing in it. And it just is. You don't have to speed everything up and you don't have to live a frantic life. The goal of this list is to let you live a less frantic life and not always be rushed around from places so that you can accept the time it takes to do the things that you want to do.
And even we do the evening debrief with the kids. So I go down and I talk to them for it can be anywhere from 10 minutes to half an hour. But I have prioritized that time and I allot that time. So if it takes less, great. I can go to bed a little sooner or I can read a book or something. But I have it already set in my mind that I'm giving them this half an hour. If they need the whole thing, that's great. If they don't, I get a little bonus time. Instead of seeing it as, ugh, that took half an hour, I already know and prepare myself and have the expectation that they get that half an hour.
I'll finish with a little bit of a tough, loving truth, which is if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you have listened to this list and after each you have a little trigger in your brain, you're listening, which I appreciate. You say, that doesn't work. That won't work. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. That won't work. That won't work. You can fight for those limitations and they just won't work. And sometimes we need to take a breath. Say, you know what? That could work. Like maybe I'll just do one of these things. This could work for me and my family. This could improve my life. Maybe I will give it a try. So back to that, using honest language, you can make this happen. It is worth the initial 30, 60, 90-day push to make these things a habit and make your life a ton easier in the long run. If you found this valuable, visit us at strongfamilyproject.com. We have the 7 steps of the Strong Family Path for you for free to download and all of our notes on it. We'll teach you how to set how to set your core values, how to do mealtime, how to set some of these habits and goals with your family, and a ton more. It's all free for you at strongfamilyproject.com. Thank you for listening. Mel, great job. We got through the episode despite my torrential sweat
Gross.
that I have going on. What do you mean gross?
I don't smell you
I like
yet.
adjectives. My sweat doesn't smell.
Well, here,
Smells like
can I
roses.
say one more thing?
Oh, okay.
Okay, and just remember, all these tactics we can role model for our kids, because someday they're going to be busy and they're going to struggle with it. And if we can try these tactics now, they could learn that from us early.